So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra is about to be upon us, and we need to talk about 5 things that must improve over the previous S25 Ultra. And even if you're coming from a previous Ultra before that, like the S24 Ultra, I want to talk in this video just a day out before the announcement what I think we need to see upgrade, and I hope it gets better in these areas. Now, the S25 Ultra, just for some context, I've had it for the entire year since launch day, and I'm not sure if I'm going to trade this one or keep this one, but definitely you've seen me praise it. I called it phone of the year last year, not because it was the best spec beast. Like, there was other phones with better options, better specs, and even better features in certain areas. But as a totality, like as a total package, the S25 Ultra still offers just so much, but it's not perfect. And there's some areas that really need some work. And we're going to talk about the very first one. And it's one that's on the top of minds of a lot of people every time they look to go get an upgrade. And that's going to come down to the battery life. So let's go over here to this area and talk just a little bit about the battery. So the efficiency has been pretty good with this phone. The Snapdragon for Galaxy they've been doing for years. It's definitely helps this phone have good efficiency, but for some reason it still seems to always lose to the competition in battery life. Now, I understand that they're going to the silicon carbon batteries on competitors. They're still a very, very young technology, so it's not 100% likely that we might see that just yet on Samsung phones, but there are rumors that we're going to see the same 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Now, Samsung's probably banking on the fact that we might see a little bit better battery life due to the better chip. And I wouldn't probably think that's wrong, but I really just want to see the battery improve. It's a must improve, I think, for the upcoming Ultra, and it's just going to make the phone better. One area where I did have a little bit of an issue with this phone is standby drain and just heavy use drain. It's a full day phone, don't get me wrong. This is definitely an all day phone for me, but it never really impressed me because it was much lower than what I found on its top competitors, like the OnePlus 15, the iPhone Pro Max, even the Pixel 10 Pro XL, not quite as fast, but even that had better battery life in my experience. But this one was just a day phone, and it's just kind of like Ultra after Ultra after Ultra with the same 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Like, come on, like we really need an upgrade in this department. Now, the next one is going to have to be charging speed. Now, this does have super fast charging, but it's not quite as fast as, again, what we see on some other competitors. Now, not everybody seems to care always about this. I do get a lot of comments saying how fast you need it to charge, like it charges fast enough. And while that's true for a lot of folks, I mean, I'm paying top dollar for an Ultra device. And while you do get good trade-ins, you still have to trade in the value of that phone. So you were technically still paying, the price of the phone. I just expect a bit more when it comes to charging, like super fast charging compared to what they've been putting. Now, it's been always a little bit better than iPhones, but it's definitely nowhere near some of the ultra fast charging phones on like the OnePlus phones, for example. So I would like to see faster charging to go along with it, at least wired charging. It doesn't have to be super fast wireless charging, but wired charging, it's just something that never overly impressed me with the S25 Ultra. It does a good job, but it's just not super crazy fast to charge a device. So I would like to see that, considering it's called an Ultra phone. Now, the next one is the weight and kind of the feel in the hand. They've improved it substantially with the S25 Ultra, much better than that of the previous S24 Ultra. And I talked about that a lot this year. Even though this phone to me doesn't look quite as good as the S24 Ultra in terms of like that iconic Samsung look, it always felt a little bit better on the sides. It feels a bit better in the hand with the weight. Generally, the phone all year long has felt like a nicer, lighter weight package. But when you compare it to, some other phones in this market, they definitely have some work to do in that area. I think they can make it a little bit more comfortable, definitely a little bit less brick-like, a little bit less weight if they can get there while still upping the battery life. That is an area of improvement I think can still be had on the Ultra phone, but let's not go too far that we get rid of the S Pen, because the S Pen is still a very, very important feature, I think, for this phone. It really sets this apart from the competition. I mean, a lot of other phones that offer pens are usually cheaper, budget-oriented, mid-range phones, and they just don't have the same level of usability as a Samsung. But the Samsung kind of did decrease this time around with the lack of a Bluetooth feature. I wouldn't be surprised if that made a comeback. A lot of people did complain about that, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it didn't, because research has been showing that not everybody uses S Pen. At the end of the day, though, back to my third point, the weight. I do think Samsung should improve and needs to improve in this area because, you know, they were already headed in that direction with the S25 Ultra. I just want to see it get even more comfortable and lighter for an everyday carry, because it is a beast of a phone and it's amazing to use. But sometimes it does seem to be a little bit big. And I understand you got that S25 Plus, you got the Plus models, the Edge for the thinness. You can even go to the Flip if you want to be compact, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we can make a phone, you know, if we improve the battery technology and everything, we could probably make a phone a bit more rounded at the corners. I think we're going to see that a little bit more at the S26. And I don't mean rounded like iPhone. I just mean a little bit more soft to hold, a little bit less brick-like. But this one was definitely an improvement over the S24 Ultra. I'm just trying to say, I think we could get even a little bit more comfortable with this phone for the day-to-day. So always trying to constantly improve. That's one area I think could be improved. Now, a must improve as well has got to be this area in the camera, the shutter lag. So there has been some shutter lag when you pull this phone out. It just takes a second sometimes. Even that flip around to the rear camera took a second, but you can kind of see that delay. It's just a little bit slow when it comes to taking the picture sometimes. Not always, but you know, when you're doing a quick movement, like you can see right there, some cameras can actually handle like quick movement and getting the shot very easily. Like this one the delay in the shutter actually sometimes tends to make the shot not as crisp. This time it actually turned out really well. But generally, I think they can improve shutter speed. That would be a really nice improvement for the S26 Ultra. And I do expect them to change the look of these camera rings as well as maybe a housing around this. And also, of course, every year you're going to probably see improvements to the camera. But the shutter speed is the one I want to see. Like less shutter lag is something I want to see. I think this phone struggles a bit in that department. Now, the next one is also related to the camera, but this one is really subjective. It's not really like everybody's going to care about this, but I do think this phone tends to overprocess a bit, makes some things look a little bit artificial. Not necessarily this picture of a camera, but of a camera lens, but certain photos outdoors and stuff of that sort. They tend to sometimes not look quite as nice as the processing I see on like a Pixel phone, for example. Some photos in iPhone, but it is really subjective. You can watch some of the camera comparisons and see that you might tend to prefer some of the Samsung photos and videos, and sometimes you might prefer the other ones. But skin tones and things, they just kind of don't always look natural on this. So I do think that the processing could be improved, and we can improve kind of like the overall results of the photos that turn out, because sometimes they do tend to look just slightly artificial in terms of their processing. So that's just something. It's just a camera. We're basically going to the camera. We can always improve here. It is incredibly sharp though, and it does have 8K log recording. But I do find this phone to be one of those phones that you just kind of, I'm going to the pro mode. I want to tweak it myself, because to get the best results out of this phone, I always like to use pro mode on the Samsung S25 Ultra, because I think you can get much better results from tweaking it yourself. But not everybody wants to do that. And so for that reason, I would like to see that upgrade. Along with the camera on the front, it would be nice to see like a super ultra wide like we've seen on the Apple devices. Not sure we're going to see that on the S26 Ultra, but it would be really nice for that to make its way. Now, I said 5, and that was 5 of them. We could actually talk about more, but I do have one bonus one to share with you, and that's going to be the software smoothness. So this phone has been very fast, but one area throughout the year where it just hasn't felt quite up to par to other phones is smoothness. It's like super fast, but to me, it's not as smooth as like a OnePlus software or some of these other devices. they could work a little bit on the polish. Sometimes this phone does have micro stutters. It's very small. You got to look out for it, but it does tend to micro stutter here and there. Never really crashes apps. It's been super stable though. I'm just saying that they could work a little bit on the polish of the smoothness of this phone. It seems like this is the Ferrari of phones. It's incredibly snappy, incredibly fast, but definitely a little bit rough around the edges in certain areas. And some people can still notice how liquidy and buttery smooth some of these other softwares feel by comparison to Samsung feeling very fast. But I tend to prefer its speed for productivity tasks and multitasking, decks, S Pen, you name it. It's been really good in that department, and I have praised it multiple times for that. But software smoothness and polish can always be improved. And I think we're going to see even more of that with One UI 8.5, which I covered previously. So that's already being worked on, but still, I would like to see how much the S26 goes in that direction on the Ultra. So stay tuned. We'll compare S25 Ultra to this phone as well. So wrapping it up, there's probably more things I could find about it, that we would say should be a must improve. We can also reduce bezels even more if they would like. That would be a nice have. I actually am looking forward to under display cameras not having any obtrusion, punch holes, anything of that sort inside of the phone. That's also an area I'd like to see improved, but I'm not sure we're going to see that. I also don't love when we see these antennae. I know we gotta have them on here, but it's sometimes nicer to me when they're just integrated within the phone. But S25 Ultra has been excellent. It really has. But looking forward to S26 Ultra. Those are the areas I think I would really like to see improve. I think some of them are actually going to come true. So stay tuned. We're going to do the S26 Ultra, battles here on the channel, and let me know if you agree with the things I think that should be improved here or not. And if you bought an S25 Ultra, are you planning on keeping it, or are you planning on seeing what Samsung does first and then potentially setting up a return to take your S25 Ultra back and go get an S26 Ultra? Curious to know how you feel about this upcoming line of devices. Let's talk about it down below in the comments. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you all in the very next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.